extreme heat waves, severe flooding, severe storm events, soil salinization, mass extinction, loss of biodiversity. These are just a few of the problems that are already occurring at an increasing rate due to global climate change. And actually, when we think about environmental damage that occurs based on the way that we live our lives, it's not just limited to climate change, unfortunately. There's also water pollution, air pollution, water depletion. These problems are huge, and they require a focused effort. They require our looking at these issues at every educational level, and they require a special effort at higher education institutions where we have the obligation to be addressing these issues and looking for solutions and training environmental professionals that are going to solve these problems as they arise in the future. This is why I'm so proud to serve as the director of the Institute for the Environment and Sustainability at Miami, now in its 53rd year, making it one of the oldest institutions of its kind in the country, maybe the oldest, and also just a little bit older than Earth Day and a little bit older than the Environmental Protection Agency. We comprise a faculty of 4 and a staff of 6, but we have lots of affiliates and adjuncts throughout the university, and together we have a Master's of Environmental program that is now in its 51st year of training environmental professionals. We also have 4 undergraduate co-majors. These co-majors are in energy, sustainability, environmental science, and food systems and food studies. This last co-major is our newest one, and it goes along with the Institute for Food, which is part of IES, and along with the Institute for Food is a working, sustainable farm where students get experiential learning opportunities to look at food sovereignty, at just, fair food distribution, at nutrition, at sustainable agriculture, at ecosystem resilience. Now, IES has been around for a long time, and of course it's evolved over the years, but one thing that has remained constant is its dedication to solving environmental problems from an interdisciplinary approach. And let me just give you one example. I had the opportunity to do some research in Malawi about 11 years ago, northern Malawi, and I was with my PhD student, Tokozani, who you see on the right, chemist, Mr. Sitima, a professor from the University of Malawi, John Saka, and me, well, I was just referred to as Mzungu, which if you speak a little Chichewa, you know it just means white guy. And together, we looked at the water quality of a variety of sources of water in this area. But what I came to realize is that there was an issue in this area of access to clean water. And this is an area where it rains a lot, so it's not just a matter of understanding the hydrology and the geology and the meteorology. It's also a matter of understanding the root causes of poverty, the history of colonialization, the political structures, the economic structures. What we need to look at problems this big, and by the way, this is exemplified by this picture I took, where you see women and children actually, who are carrying 20 liters of water on their heads up some very steep and slippery slopes. That's 44 pounds. So it's a problem of easy access to a clean water supply. And what we need to tackle problems like these are students who are studying not only the natural sciences, but sociology and anthropology and political science and economics and philosophy and history. In other words, what we need are students with a liberal education, which happens to be what Miami is very good at providing. Here's just another example from northern Malawi. This is from a New York Times article back in 2016. And here you can see poverty, drought, and felled trees imperiling Malawi's water supply. So here we have the social sciences and the natural sciences once again tied together. But what we also have, which is so common, is environmental issues at the nexus of energy and water. These people are cutting down trees in order to get fuel for cooking and for heating. We have problems, environmental problems at the nexus of energy and food, and water. And in addition, it's not intuitively obvious why it is that cutting down trees is imperiling the water supply. I'm a hydrogeologist by training. To figure out the answer to that problem, I invite you to just sit in on my hydrogeology class, and we'll leave that one that mystery for another time. But all these problems that I'm speaking about are problems of sustainability. What is the carrying capacity of the globe? How is it that we can continue to provide food, to provide water, energy, clean air, enough soil for growing our food? How can we do this on a globe with an increasing population and increasing industrialization? These issues have really been at the forefront ever since the late 1960s when IES was created and early 1970s, and they coincided with images like these. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because for the first time, human beings were able to get far enough away from the Earth to turn around and take a look, and what they saw was the blue marble hanging in the sky. And when we all saw these photos, we realized in a very visceral way that these are the resources we have. This is it. This is the water we have. This is the air we have. And now we're the Institute for the Environment and Sustainability, and today, sustainability started becoming a big word in the early 1980s, but today it's used by many people in many different ways. Let me just share with you the definition that I'm thinking about as I run IES. What you see in this definition, it's not just a scientific definition, it's a definition with ethics embedded in it. It has a generational ethic. It has an ecological ethic. It has a social justice ethic, maybe most important of all, because I've really come to realize over the years that every environmental issue is also a social justice issue. The two of them are tied together. They are inseparable. African Americans in the United States are 75% more likely to live near facilities that produce hazardous waste than are white people. African Americans and Hispanic Americans are exposed to air pollution in this country at a much higher rate than are white people. And that is, even if you factor out income. So statistically, you take income out of it, it still is a matter of racial disparity. And that's due to our whole history of housing and redlining that we've had in this country. To understand the root causes of that, we have to go back a long way. But it really highlights how race, how social justice and environmental issues are tied together. And if we come back to climate change, this is also true at the global scale, because think about the populations that are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. These happen to be the populations around the globe that are least responsible for emitting greenhouse gases on a per capita basis. Consider, for example, people who live at sea level in Bangladesh who are especially prone to flooding. Think about the people who live on the Pacific Islands. These islands are in danger of completely disappearing due to sea level rise. Think about people who live in many parts throughout Africa, many parts of Africa, where they are dealing with droughts that are becoming more severe and more long-lived. And this is true even when we take a look here locally at home. The impacts of climate change do not affect our local populations equally. They are going to much more affect the people who, for example, have to work outside in the summer, even during heat waves, exposed to lower air quality during that time. It's going to affect people who have lack of access to air conditioning, people who have lack of access to affordable, nutritious food. And this is why I really feel that it's up to higher ed education. It is our obligation to do a couple things, to be looking at these problems, to be training people, and to be cutting our own carbon emissions. Because climate and racial justice, these two things go together. We have an obligation to be looking at this, and I am so proud that President Crawford, in September 2020, signed the President's Climate Leadership Commitments. And by doing so, he committed us to going carbon neutral in as quickly as we can. These efforts build on what is already a 10-year effort at Miami to reduce our carbon footprint and increase our energy efficiency. And we've done this by cutting coal burning out of our mix, and Miami has become a real leader in using geothermal energy to heat and cool our buildings on campus. And now we're taking that to the next level. with the PCLC, the President's Climate Leadership Commitment. We have 2 years from now to come up with our climate action plan. And this plan will say how we are going carbon neutral and by when we are going carbon neutral. And this is a huge effort that involves staff and faculty and students across the campus. And it's not just a matter of reforming our own energy systems. That's certainly a big part of it. But this also involves looking at our transportation systems. It involves looking at how we embed climate research and education into our curriculum. We look at parking policies. We're working with the city of Oxford. We're looking at how we can become more resilient. We're looking at social justice issues. We're doing all these things, and IES is playing a big role in participating in this effort. And of course, IES continues to do the things that it's been doing for the last 50 years with training environmental professionals. IES has now trained almost 800 environmental professionals. These are alumni of the Masters of Environmental Science program. And these people are out in the world now working to make the world a better place and to make a more sustainable society.